Hello everyone, this is your host Legend, and welcome back to my channel. This is the continuation of my Zero to Hero series, a series in which I started with nothing, and by the end, I will have built up one of the guild raid meta teams in Warhammer 40k Tacticus. I want to give a quick update to some of my rules, seeing as a new update came out that drastically changed game features. With the Mythic update came a new rarity and rank tier. Along with this, the requirements to get a character to Diamond 3 was reduced. It is because of this, I have moved my end goal from getting one of the guild raid meta teams to Diamond 1, and instead, we will now be aiming for Diamond 3. I also wanted to take some time to go over the now 4 guild raid meta teams. With the introduction of the Custodes, we have seen the rise of a new team composition. Blade Champion Carrion is the linchpin to this new team. This team is very legendary heavy, but that is a part of what allows them to hit so heavily. The other part to this team is having good ability usage, boss manipulation skills, and health management to help you do even more damage. The Custodes comp is now available as an endgame goal. The AdMech team is a mainly mechanical character team revolving around Exeter Rowe. Rowe's passive allows him to rack up a lot of out-of-turn damage rapidly. This is due to the factor that whenever a friendly mechanical unit hits a target Rowe is adjacent to, Rowe attacks that target, which in most cases is the guild raid boss. The Psyker team revolves around the Neurothrope. The goal with this team is to apply all 15 stacks of the Neurothrope's passive ability, Neuroparasite, as quickly as possible to allow the Neurothrope to do massive damage to the guild raid boss. The multi-hit guild raid team is generally the most flexible and sees the widest range of characters. It sees you, as the name implies, using multiple hit characters and characters that will buff those hits to deliver damage quickly to a guild raid boss. To get us started, we will begin with a requisition poll. Between missions completed in the previous video and limited time codes I claimed in between, we stored up 10 requisition scrolls. The only question that remains is, did we get anything good? From this 10 poll, we unlock Arjak and the Death Leaper, along with 40 extra shards for Bellator, which we use to quickly promote him to uncommon rarity. Overall, I would say this is a very, very good poll. Finally, before we jump right into the journey, I want to reiterate which characters are being prioritized. We are currently in the early game, so characters that should be prioritized are campaign characters, such as Bellator. Bellator is the hard carry of the Indomitus campaign, and of all campaign characters that we currently have, should be our highest priority. Along with Bellator, we can rapidly level Varo Tagaris, Vindicta, Certus, and Incisus. In the early game, to a degree, we can still comfortably level everyone rather evenly and have little care for badge spending. It is still a good idea to be careful with your resources, but generally, it's not a bad idea to just level up what you can. Now we dive back in where we left off. We had just slain Hexmark Destroyer Imispec. With this defeat, we are able to head into part 3 of the Indomitus campaign. We are quickly introduced to a new unit and mechanic. Scarabs are our first swarm type enemy. Swarms are comprised of smaller units acting as one. They are best taken out by multi-hitters or units that can deal blast damage. Scarabs are by far one of, if not the most annoying unit you will face in the Indomitus campaign. Their active ability allows them to create a Nars Scarab Swarm, with this being a guaranteed thing to trigger if no enemy is in range, otherwise it has a 50% chance of occurring. It is for this reason Scarabs should be a priority elimination in any battle. As of now, the battles we are facing are still rather easy, seeing as we are still progressing our characters roughly at the same rate as our enemies are getting tougher. We eventually reach Aleph-Null at Battle 45. Aleph-Null is the third boss in the Indomitus campaign and is a melee unit, summoner, and mechanic. Aleph's active ability summons up to 2 Scarab Swarms that attack an enemy of your choice. The stats of the Scarabs depend on what level the active is currently at. In battle, Aleph tends to use this ability rather quickly, which can be annoying if not dealt with the same haste that Aleph uses the ability. Aleph's passive ability allows them to heal an adjacent unit they move to or happen to be adjacent to when Aleph's turn ends. The amount of health healed depends on what level the passive ability is currently at. This ability can only affect friendly mechanical units. It is usually pretty easy to deny Aleph much value from their passive, as most units will die before Aleph can reach them. But the passive can still prove most annoying, especially if Aleph heals scarabs that you have failed to kill. This boss fight has a real capacity to be annoying. Generally, if scarabs are not prioritized and destroyed, they rapidly split and overwhelm your forces. As long as scarabs are dealt with quickly and effectively, this boss fight will be easy, and generally you will sweep it very quickly. With the defeat of Aleph, we march ever onward. We are now entering part 4 of the campaign. This part sees no new mechanics introduced, although just because there's nothing new doesn't mean it's going to be an easy ride. It is at this part in the campaign that the power disparity between our units and the Necrons builds rapidly. Generally from this point on, you are facing units that are technically stronger than you. Normally this can be fixed by upgrading your characters, but at this point, your characters are starting to require components you cannot acquire. Make no mistake, this is not a soft lock, but we are rapidly approaching the limits of our characters and must start leaning more on good strategy and the use of our environment to our advantage. For most people though, they will eventually run into their first battle where they lose a unit. In my case, it was Indomitus Battle 50. I misplaced Vindicta and lose her to a series of attacks from a Flayed One, Deathmark, and Necron Warrior. At this point, it is a good time to slow down and think about what caused the loss of your unit. This allows us to better adapt and potentially overcome the battle. We should always start at blaming ourselves in mistakes that we could have made. It is never a good idea to blame the game where human error was more than likely made. Some good questions to ask in this category are, did you overextend your units? Did I move a unit into a bad position? Or did I underestimate my enemy? Then we look at the game. Did the enemy high roll their damage? Was there an unfortunate crit? Or did the enemy have modifiers such as high ground? Considering these factors, my loss of Vindicta is due to bad positioning, underestimating my enemy, and in general, the enemy has high ground over Vindicta. These are good questions we can ask ourselves to identify where something went wrong, so that we may adjust our strategy to usually clear the battle in our next attempt. After pulling through many tough battles, we reach Plasmancer Thutmose. Thutmose is a glass cannon and is a mixed-range unit, i.e., he can in theory perform well in ranged and melee combat. Thutmose's active ability allows him to deal direct 100% pierce ratio damage to one target plus up to 2 random targets in range. In most cases, despite the 100% pierce ratio, this active ability does very little damage, but as shown, can be quite effective against weaker units. Thutmose's passive ability makes it to where if Thutmose moves to a hex adjacent to an enemy, he will deal direct damage to said enemy. If there is more than one target adjacent to Thutmose, it'll target a random target. Generally, Thutmose's passive doesn't do much, other than encourage you to riskily advance your glass cannon right into the enemy, which is a spot you really don't want Thutmose or any glass cannon to be. Thutmose is, as of now, one of the weakest characters in Tacticus, but as of now, our characters are far weaker. Thutmose and his auxiliary units easily overwhelm us, and we cannot progress any further in this campaign for now. So, where does that leave us? As we progressed through the Indomitus campaign, we finished multiple missions that gave us the shards needed to unlock Mechotip, Immospec, and Aleph-Null for ourselves, which in turn has unlocked the Indomitus Mirror campaign. Mirror campaigns see you controlling the characters of the opposite faction you were fighting. For example, in the Indomitus campaign, we were using the Ultramarines against the Necrons, and in the Mirror campaign, we will be using the Necrons against the Ultramarines. For this video, we will only be playing battles 1 through 3 of the Indomitus Mirror campaign. These battles introduce us quickly to the auxiliary units we will be facing throughout the whole campaign. These units are Inceptors, Eliminators, and Cadian Guardsmen. Inceptors are nothing new. They are the same unit summoned by Bellator's active ability. Eliminators are very similar to Certus, minus Certus's active ability. And Cadian Guardsmen are squishy but typically numerous infantry units. With that, we end where it began, with an R10 pole Requisition. Will we be just as lucky as last time, though, is another question.